6 months after the incident at New Hebrides, the Galactic Council reconvened for a historic session. The Grand Chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from every member species attended, and the session was being broadcast across Council space. Today, humanity would be officially reclassified. Dr. Zixlar stood at the central podium, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber lights. Beside him, holographic displays showed the comprehensive research data he had compiled over the past year. Ambassador Torval and Commander Sarah Chen sat in the front row, watching history unfold. Honored members of the Council, Zixlar began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. When humanity first joined us, we classified them as Category 7, vulnerable species. This classification was based on their apparent lack of natural defensive adaptations. Today I present evidence that this classification was fundamentally incorrect. He brought up the first display, showing comparative biological scans. Humans do not lack defenses. They have something we failed to recognize because it operates at the baseline level. Human physiology is already at what most species consider a defended state. Their bones, muscles, organs, and cellular structures are inherently robust in ways that other species only achieve through specialized adaptations. The chamber was silent, all attention focused on the presentation. But physical toughness is only part of the picture, Zixlar continued. Humans possess endurance capabilities that exceed anything we have encountered. They can maintain consciousness and operational effectiveness for periods that would be medically impossible for most species. This is not exceptional for humans. This is their normal state. He displayed footage from the military exercises, the Aurora repair mission, and the defense of New Hebrides. In every situation where we expected humans to require protection, they instead demonstrated capabilities that made protection unnecessary. In situations where we expected them to fail due to their perceived vulnerabilities, they succeeded through persistence and adaptation. A council member from the Krek species, known for their defensive shells, raised a claw. Doctor, are you suggesting that humans are more durable than species with actual armor? I am suggesting, Zixlar replied carefully, that durability takes different forms. Your armor provides excellent protection against impact and penetration. Human internal resilience provides protection against radiation, temperature variation, toxic substances, and physical stress. Both are forms of defense. Humans simply evolved internal rather than external protection. He pulled up his final analysis. After reviewing all available data, I propose reclassifying humanity from Category 7, vulnerable species, to Category 1, apex endurance predators. This classification reflects not just their physical capabilities, but their fundamental nature as persistence hunters who evolved to outlast any threat. The chamber erupted in discussion. Category 1 classifications were rare, reserved for species that represented the pinnacle of evolutionary survival strategies. The idea of placing humans in this category seemed impossible to many, who still saw them as the friendly, cooperative beings who had joined the Council only a year ago. Ambassador Torval stood calling for order. If I may address the confusion I sense in this chamber, I have worked closely with humanity since their arrival. I have watched them pass every test we designed to protect them. I have seen them work when others needed rest, persist when others faltered, and succeed where others deemed success impossible. Dr. Zixlar's classification is not just accurate. It may actually be conservative, he gestured to Sarah. Commander Chen, would you address the Council? Sarah rose and walked to the podium. She looked out at the assembled representatives, aware that her words would echo across the galaxy. Members of the Council, I understand your confusion. When we first arrived, you saw us as vulnerable. We had no scales, no shells, no obvious weapons. You assigned us protection teams because you were concerned for our safety. That concern was touching and we appreciated it. She smiled gently. But here's what you need to understand about humanity. We didn't evolve on a gentle world. Earth tested us constantly. It threw everything at us. Predators, diseases, temperature swings, radiation, toxins. And we survived not by growing armor or claws or venom. We survived by becoming fundamentally resilient. We learned to outlast the cold and the heat. We learned to heal from injuries that would kill others. We learned to eat foods that were toxic and make them safe. We learned to run not fast but forever. And most importantly, we learned to work together, to coordinate, to share knowledge. That cooperation made us stronger than any natural armor ever could. She paused, making eye contact with representatives around the chamber. You called us Category 7 because you thought we lacked defenses. Dr. Zixlar is right to reclassify us. But I want you to understand something important. We're not dangerous to you. We're not a threat to the Council. Yes, we're apex predators by evolution. Yes, we can endure what others cannot. But we chose cooperation over conquest. We chose community over domination. That choice defines us more than our biology ever could. The chamber was completely silent now. Humanity didn't need natural defenses, Sarah continued, because we evolved something better. We evolved the ability to adapt, to persist, to overcome. And then we evolved the wisdom to use those abilities to build rather than destroy. That's what we bring to the Council. Not just endurance or resilience, but the choice to use those traits in service of something greater than ourselves. She stepped back from the podium. The vote was called. The reclassification passed unanimously. Humanity was now officially recognized as Category 1, Apex Endurance Predators. But the classification came with an annotation, added by Ambassador Torval and approved by acclamation. Apex Endurance Predators, Cooperative Subspecialization. The announcement sent ripples through galactic society. News networks broadcast features on human capabilities. Academic institutions requested human guest lecturers. Military academies wanted human instructors in endurance tactics. Engineering firms sought human consultants for long-duration projects. Marcus Webb found himself something of a celebrity. The story of the engineer who worked through a solar flare had become legendary. He gave interviews, always emphasizing that he was just a normal human doing what came naturally. The Vexnor Empire, once feared throughout the galaxy, signed a comprehensive peace treaty with the Council. The treaty's preamble mentioned that the Empire recognized the futility of conflict with species who could not be defeated through natural advantages. Everyone knew they meant humanity specifically. Dr. Zixlar and Commander Chen collaborated on a book titled The Endurance Principle: Why Humanity Never Needed Armor. It became required reading in xenobiology programs across Council space. The core thesis was simple. Evolution had given different species different paths to survival. Some had chosen defense, some had chosen offense. Humans had chosen persistence. And in doing so, they had become virtually indestructible. A year after the reclassification, Sarah stood with Torval on the observation deck of a new space station. Below them, construction crews worked on what would become a joint Human Council research facility. Half the crew was human, working their characteristically long shifts. The other half rotated through in the established patterns of their species. Do you regret it? Torval asked. The reclassification brought scrutiny. Some species are wary of humanity now. Sarah shook her head. No, it's better that they understand what we are. Fear comes from not knowing. Now they know. We're tough. We're persistent. We don't give up. But they also know we're here to cooperate, not conquer. And what do humans know now about themselves? The ambassador asked. Sarah considered this. We always knew we were survivors. Earth taught us that, but joining the Council taught us something else. We learned that what we thought was normal, what we thought everyone could do, was actually extraordinary. We learned that our greatest strength wasn't any single trait. It was the combination of persistence and cooperation. We can endure anything, and we choose to endure together. She pointed to the construction site below. That's humanity's real contribution to the galaxy. Not that we can work longer or survive harsher conditions, but that we can do those things while building something with others. We didn't need armor or claws or venom because evolution gave us something better. It gave us the ability to persist and the wisdom to persist together. Torval's expression showed something that might have been profound respect. The galaxy is fortunate that humanity chose cooperation when you reached for the stars. We chose cooperation long before we reached the stars, Sarah replied. That's how we survived Earth. That's how we'll thrive among the stars. Not by being the strongest or the fastest or the most defended, but by being the species that never stops trying, never stops adapting, and never stops working together. Below them, the construction continued. Human workers and alien colleagues built something new together. And across the galaxy, humanity's reputation continued to spread, not as conquerors or threats, but as the species that had evolved past the need for natural defenses by becoming inherently unbreakable. The species that proved persistence and cooperation could triumph over any challenge. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called with unprecedented urgency. Ambassador Torval stood at the center of the great chamber, his forearms spread in a gesture of grave concern. Around him, representatives from 40 species watched holographic displays showing the expanding territory of the Vexnor Empire. Commander Sarah Chen attended as Earth's representative, seated in the section reserved for newer member species. She studied the territorial maps with growing concern. The Vexnor expansion was aggressive and accelerating. The Vexnor Empire has conquered 12 species in the past century, Torval announced. Each time they achieve victory through overwhelming force applied in concentrated attacks. Their natural advantages make them nearly unstoppable in direct combat. A hologram appeared, showing a Vexnor warrior. The creature was massive, standing nearly 3 meters tall. Heavy chitinous armor covered its body, natural protection that could withstand most conventional weapons. Its 6 limbs ended in razor-sharp claws, and its mandibles dripped with venom that could paralyze victims within seconds. Vexnor are apex ambush predators, a Quellan military analyst explained. They strike hard, they strike fast, and their natural weapons make them devastating in close combat. Most species surrender after the first engagement. Those who don't are usually overwhelmed within hours. Sarah raised her hand, requesting permission to speak. Torval nodded acknowledgement. "What's their weakness?" she asked directly. The chamber fell silent. Finally, General Thaxron spoke. Their metabolism burns extremely hot. They can maintain their combat effectiveness for approximately 15 minutes before requiring rest and feeding. This is why they favor quick strikes. So they're sprinters, Sarah said thoughtfully. What happens if you make them fight longer? No species has successfully extended combat with the Vexnor beyond their preferred time frame, the analyst replied. Their natural advantages are too overwhelming. They win before fatigue becomes a factor. The council debate continued. The Vexnor were approaching council space and several human colonies lay in their projected path. The consensus was clear. Evacuation was the only safe option. We recommend immediate evacuation of all human settlements in border sectors, Torval announced. The Vexnor have identified humanity as having minimal defensive capabilities. They will target human colonies first. Sarah stood. With respect, Ambassador, we decline evacuation. The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. Torval's expression showed genuine worry. Commander Chen, please reconsider. Your species lacks the natural defenses to withstand Vexnor assault. This is not a question of courage. It's simple biological reality. Ambassador, with all due respect, I don't think you fully understand what humans are capable of. Sarah's voice was calm, but firm. We don't have scales or claws or venom, but we have something else. We have adaptability, and we have endurance. Dr. Zixelar's voice came through the communication system. Permission to address the council? Granted, Torval said. Zixelar's holographic form appeared. I have been studying humanity for 8 months. I believe Commander Chen is correct to refuse evacuation, not because humans are foolish, but because the Vexnor strategy is fundamentally incompatible with human capabilities. He brought up comparative data. Vexnor excel at overwhelming force in short time frames. Humans excel at extended operations and adaptation. The Vexnor burn hot and fast. Humans burn steady and long. I believe a Vexnor assault on a prepared human position would be educational for both species. You're suggesting we let them attack? A council member asked in shock. I'm suggesting, Sarah interjected, that we prepare our colonies for defense and let the Vexnor learn what happens when you try to sprint against someone who doesn't know how to quit. 3 weeks later, the Vexnor raiding fleet arrived at New Hebrides, a human agricultural colony with a population of 8,000. The raid followed their standard pattern. A force of 300 Vexnor warriors descended on the settlement at dawn, expecting quick victory against the lightly defended colony. What they found was not a helpless settlement. The colonists had spent 3 weeks preparing, not building heavy fortifications or deploying exotic weapons. They had simply organized. The first Vexnor wave hit the colony's perimeter at 600 hours. They were met with coordinated rifle fire, not the overwhelming firepower designed to stop them, but persistent, accurate shooting from multiple positions. The Vexnor pushed forward, expecting resistance to break. It didn't break. It fell back slowly, making the Vexnor work for every meter. 30 minutes into the assault, the first Vexnor warriors began showing signs of fatigue. An hour in, they were struggling. 2 hours in, they pulled back to regroup and feed. The human defenders rotated fresh shooters into position. They had food and water brought to their defensive positions. They settled in for a long fight. The Vexnor attacked again at 900, and at 1300, and at 1800. Each time, they hit hard. Each time, the humans fell back a little, made them work, wore them down. By midnight of the first day, the Vexnor warriors were exhausted. They had never fought for more than a few hours before. Their bodies weren't designed for it. The humans were tired too, but they had planned for this. They rotated defenders, maintained supply lines, kept up steady pressure. They had learned warfare on Earth where conflicts could last days, weeks, months. This was what they knew. On day 2, the Vexnor tried night attacks, hoping to leverage their natural night vision. The humans had prepared thermal equipment and plenty of lights. The battle continued. On day 3, the Vexnor attempted to besiege the settlement, hoping to starve them out. The humans had stockpiled supplies for months and launched their own raids on Vexnor positions. It was warfare the Vexnor had never experienced. No quick victory. No overwhelming single strike. Just relentless, persistent resistance that gave them no chance to recover. The humans didn't try to match Vexnor's strength. They simply refused to stop fighting. On the evening of day 3, the Vexnor commander made a decision that shocked his warriors. He requested communication with the human defenders. The colonial administrator, a former Earth military officer named James Martinez, accepted the call. The Vexnor commander's translator rendered his clicks and hisses into standard language. "We wish to negotiate withdrawal. This conflict serves no purpose." Martinez studied the alien warrior on the screen. He could see the exhaustion in the creature's posture. "You're offering surrender?" "We are offering mutual cessation of hostilities," the commander corrected with what might have been dignity. "Your people fight unlike any species we have encountered. You do not break. You do not flee. You simply continue." "That's what humans do," Martinez replied. "We don't sprint to victory. We walk there, steadily, without stopping." The Vexnor warriors withdrew within hours, but they didn't return to their empire. The entire raiding force requested asylum with the Galactic Council, unwilling to face punishment for their failure and unable to explain to their superiors how 300 apex predators had been defeated by. Agriculturalist Dr. Zixler interviewed the captured Vexnor extensively. His report to the council was succinct and profound. The Vexnor evolved as ambush predators. They developed overwhelming natural weapons because their prey either died quickly or escaped quickly. They never needed endurance. Humanity evolved as persistence hunters. They developed endurance because their prey could run faster, fight harder, and hide better. Humans simply followed until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. He paused before his final conclusion. Every species in the galaxy evolved either to defend against threats or to overwhelm them with offense. Humans evolved to be the threat, not through strength or speed or armor, but through the simple, terrifying fact that they never stop coming. They are predators who kill by persistence. And now that predator instinct has been channeled into cooperation and civilization. The galaxy has never seen anything like them. The Vexnor Empire requested peace negotiations within a month. They had no interest in fighting a species that couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be exhausted, and refused to be broken. For the first time in their history, the Vexnor faced an opponent they could not defeat through natural superiority. They faced humans, who had no natural defenses because evolution had made defense unnecessary. Humans had evolved something better than armor. They had evolved to be unstoppable. The joint military exercises had seemed like a good idea at the planning stage. 6 months after humanity's integration into the Galactic Council, it was time to test how well human forces could coordinate with established Council military units. Commander Sarah Chen had returned to oversee Earth's participation, bringing with her a company of trained soldiers and support staff. General Thaxron of the Varani Defense Forces watched the human unit arrive at Training Station Delta with barely concealed skepticism. His forearms crossed over his broad armored chest as he reviewed the personnel files. 50 humans, he rumbled to his aide, against our full battalion of 200. This will be a short exercise. Sarah approached with a calm smile, offering the traditional Varani greeting. General Thaxron, thank you for agreeing to train with us. We're looking forward to learning from the Council's finest. The general's expression softened slightly. The pleasure is ours, Commander Chen. I trust your troops are prepared for standard military operations. The exercises will be demanding. We're ready, General. The first exercise began at 600 station time. Standard protocol for Council forces meant 4-hour active periods followed by 8-hour recovery cycles. This rhythm had been established over centuries of military operations, optimized for the biological needs of most species. By 1,000 hours, the Varani troops rotated to their rest quarters. The humans continued their assigned tasks. By 1,400 hours, the second Varani shift completed their rotation. The same human soldiers were still active. By 2,200 hours, General Thaxron stood in the observation center, watching the human troops finally bed down for rest. They had been continuously active for 16 hours. "This is not possible," he said to Commander Chen, who had joined him for a debriefing. "Your soldiers should be exhausted. Metabolic strain alone should have forced them to rest cycles." Sarah shrugged. 16 hours is a long day, but nothing unusual for human soldiers. During intensive operations, we can maintain activity for much longer. How much longer? Depends on the situation. Days if necessary. The general's secondary eyes widened in disbelief. Days? Continuous operation for days? With brief rest periods, yes. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. Our bodies are designed for endurance, not sprint performance. The second week of exercises brought a new challenge. A pursuit scenario designed to test tracking and sustain tactical operations. The target was a simulated enemy vessel programmed to evade capture for as long as possible, jumping through multiple star systems over a 72-hour period. Council doctrine called for rotating pursuit teams. Fresh crews would take over every 12 hours, maintaining pressure on the target while allowing troops to recover. 3 teams of Varani soldiers were assigned to work in shifts. The human unit, smaller in number, opted to use a single team for the entire exercise. "They'll break," Thaxron predicted to his staff. "No species can maintain pursuit effectiveness for 3 days straight." This will be an important lesson for them about the value of proper rotation. 12 hours into the pursuit, the first Varani team rotated out, exhausted but satisfied with their performance. The human team continued, showing no signs of fatigue. 24 hours in, the second Varani rotation completed their shift. The humans had taken 1 3-hour rest period but were otherwise still active and alert. 36 hours into the exercise, the third Varani team was struggling. The psychological strain of the extended operation was showing. The humans had slept twice for 4 hours each time, and seemed as focused as they had been at the start. At hour 48, General Thaxron watched in amazement as the human team executed a complex tactical maneuver with perfect precision. Meanwhile, his own troops, despite being fresh, were showing signs of the mental fatigue that came from extended operations. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of Dr. Zixlar, who had been monitoring the exercise remotely. "Their cardiovascular systems are remarkable," Zixlar explained, displaying biological readings. "Human hearts are incredibly efficient. Their blood carries oxygen so effectively that they can maintain high levels of activity with minimal metabolic cost. What your troops experience as exhausting, humans process as moderate exertion. And their muscle systems? Built for endurance. Human muscles have a higher concentration of slow twitch fibers, designed for sustained activity rather than quick bursts. They literally evolved to outlast their prey on Earth. They would chase animals for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion." At hour 72, the pursuit exercise concluded. The simulated enemy vessel was captured. The human team had maintained continuous pursuit with the same core group of soldiers, taking only brief rest periods. They looked tired but remained fully functional. The Varani forces had rotated through 9 different complete teams and still appeared more exhausted than the humans. "General," Thaxron called for a meeting with Commander Chen after the exercise concluded. "I owe you an apology." "Commander," he said formally, "I underestimated your troops. More accurately, I didn't understand what human physiology makes possible." Sarah accepted graciously. "No apology needed, General. Every species has different capabilities. Ours just happened to lean toward endurance. This changes military doctrine," Thaxron said seriously. "If human forces can maintain operations for extended periods without rotation, it provides a significant strategic advantage. The enemy must rest. Humans simply continue. We do need rest eventually, Sarah pointed out. We're not unlimited. But yes, we can push further than most species expect. 3 weeks later, a real crisis tested the theory in practice. Colony ship Aurora suffered catastrophic life support failures while en route to a new settlement world. The ship carried 3,000 colonists from multiple species, and the backup systems were failing one by one. Engineering teams scrambled to calculate repair timelines. The best estimate was 6 days of continuous work to restore full life support functionality. Without repairs, the colonists would start dying within a week. The problem was simple but devastating. No alien species could maintain the consciousness and technical precision needed for such complex repairs over a 6-day continuous period. Rotation would require training multiple teams on the Aurora's unique systems, adding days they didn't have. Send humans, Dr. Zixlar recommended to the Council Emergency Response Team. A team of 12 human engineers reached the Aurora within hours. Marcus Webb was among them, his reputation from the asteroid incident having earned him a position on priority response teams. The lead engineer, a woman named Dr. Patricia Kim, assessed the damage and laid out a brutal timeline. We can do this in 5 days if we work in continuous 4-day shifts with brief sleep periods. 2 teams of 6 rotating minimal rest. The alien crew members watched in exhausted amazement as the human engineers worked. 4 hours of sleep every 20 hours. The rest was focused, precise technical work in uncomfortable conditions with constant pressure. On day 3, Marcus was elbow-deep in a plasma relay conduit when the Aurora's captain, a Quellan named Vixara, approached him. "How are you still functioning?" Vixara asked. "My engineers had to stop after 18 hours. They're sleeping now, probably for the next day." Marcus didn't look up from his work. "We're bred for this in a way. Humans used to hunt by just following prey until it collapsed. We're not fast, but we don't stop." "That's terrifying," Vixara said quietly. "It's useful," Marcus corrected with a tired smile. "Hand me that calibrator." On the evening of day 5, Dr. Kim initiated the final system restart sequence. The life support systems hummed to full power, green lights appearing across every monitoring station. The human engineers had completed the repairs in 5 days and 7 hours. They had saved 3,000 lives, and when it was done, they stayed awake long enough to verify everything was stable before finally allowing themselves proper rest. The term human standard endurance entered the Council's operational lexicon within a month. It became a benchmark that seemed impossible to other species, but was simply normal for humanity. Dr. Zixlar updated his reports once again. "Humans don't just lack defenses," he wrote. "They are persistent beyond any species we've encountered. They don't sprint toward victory. They walk steadily forward, and they never stop walking. That may be the most terrifying and valuable trait in the galaxy." 3 weeks had passed since humanity's formal acceptance into the Galactic Council. Commander Sarah Chen had returned to Earth to report the successful integration, leaving behind a team of human specialists to begin collaborative work with other Council species. Among them was Marcus Webb, a young mining engineer who had volunteered for the Deep Space Assignment program. Marcus floated in the zero-gravity section of asteroid station Gamma 9, reviewing mining survey data with his Quellan partner Rixtor. The Quellan was a cautious being, his blue exoskeleton constantly reflecting the station's lights. Council regulations required that all human workers be assigned protection partners, a decision made after Dr. Zixlar's initial reports raised concerns about human vulnerability. "The humans still don't understand why we worry," Rixtor had confided to his supervisor earlier that day. "Marcus treats me like I'm the fragile one." It was true. Despite the official designation as his protector, Rixtor found himself constantly struggling to keep up with the humans' casual approach to danger. Marcus would work extended shifts without complaint, handle equipment that grew uncomfortably hot for other species, and seemed completely unbothered by the cosmic radiation that made everyone else rotate off the asteroid surface every few hours. The mining operation on asteroid 447b had been proceeding smoothly for 2 weeks. The crew of 40, representing 12 different species, worked in careful coordination to extract rare metals from the asteroid's core. Safety protocols were strict. Everyone understood the risks of working in deep space. Then the solar flare hit. The station's alarm shrieked through every corridor. Marcus looked up from his workstation as Rixtor's exoskeleton immediately began shifting to a darker, more protective shade. Solar flare. Rixtor's voice carried panic. Radiation levels spiking. Everyone to the shielded zones. Now the crew scattered. Species with natural radiation resistance headed for the secondary shelters. Those without ran for the heavily shielded core sections. Rixtor grabbed Marcus's arm, trying to pull him toward safety. Wait. Marcus pulled up the radiation readings on his handheld device. How bad is it? Bad enough to kill you if you stay exposed. Move! Rixtor was already sealing his environmental suit's extra protective layers. Marcus studied the numbers. This is about 3 times normal background radiation. Maybe 4? 3 times as lethal for most species. Are you insane? On Earth, we get radiation spikes like this during solar events. It's elevated, sure, but not immediately dangerous. Marcus checked the mining equipment status. We have about 6 hours of work left on the current extraction. If we stop now, we'll lose the positioning. Rixtor stared at him with all 3 eyes. You want to keep working? In this radiation? I'll finish up. You get to safety. No point in both of us staying. Marcus was already turning back to his controls. I can't leave you. I'm assigned as your protector. Then stay in the shielded observation room and watch. But I'm fine, really. Marcus smiled reassuringly. Trust me. Rixtor reluctantly retreated to the protected observation station and immediately contacted the station commander. Within minutes, Dr. Zixler was on the communication channel from Research Station Kepler-7, watching the situation unfold through remote monitors. Marcus Webb is still working in the active radiation zone? Zixler's crystalline form seemed to vibrate with concern. The readings show exposure levels that should be causing cellular damage. He says it's not dangerous to humans, the station commander reported. Should we forcibly evacuate him? Zixler watched Marcus moving calmly through his tasks, showing no signs of distress. No, continue monitoring his vital signs. If there's any indication of harm, pull him out immediately. But I want full medical scans the moment this is over. 6 hours later, Marcus completed the extraction sequence and joined the rest of the crew in the safe zones. He looked tired but healthy. Rixtor met him at the airlock, medical scanner in hand. How are you feeling? Rixtor asked, running the scanner over Marcus's body. Bit warm, honestly. Getting kind of hungry. What do the scans show? Rixtor looked at the results, then checked his scanner to make sure it was working correctly. You're fine. Completely fine. There's no cellular damage at all. There's not even significant inflammation. Told you, Marcus grinned. Earth biology is pretty robust. The incident report reached Dr. Zixlar's desk within the day. He added it to his growing file on human capabilities, a document that was beginning to reshape Council understanding of what was biologically possible. Ambassador Torval visited the research station a week later, finding Zixlar surrounded by data displays showing human biological readings. You look like you haven't rested in days, Torval observed. I've been running comparisons. Zixlar gestured to a holographic display. Look at this. Human DNA has built-in error correction mechanisms that shouldn't be possible without specialized cellular organelles. But humans don't have those organelles. The error correction is just built into the DNA structure itself. He pulled up another chart. They're bones. We initially measured their density as 3 times higher than expected. Further analysis shows it's actually 5 times higher. But the bone structure is so efficiently designed that it weighs less than it should. They have strength without the mass penalty that affects every other species. Their muscles, another display appeared. Redundant fiber structures. If a human damages muscle tissue, the surrounding fibers automatically compensate. They can continue functioning at nearly full capacity even with significant injuries. Torval studied the information carefully. You're saying their baseline biology operates at what we would consider an enhanced state? Exactly, Zixlar brought up comparative scans. This is a Varani warrior in full defensive posture with all natural armor engaged. This is a human at rest. The structural resilience is comparable. The human might actually be tougher. But how? Earth, Zixlar said simply. I've been studying their planet's evolutionary history. Earth didn't just challenge life to survive. It challenged life constantly, relentlessly, in every possible way. Temperature swings of 100 degrees. Radiation from space and from the planet itself. Predators that evolved alongside humans, forcing constant adaptation. Viral and bacterial warfare on a cellular level that makes our worst plagues look mild. He zoomed in on a timeline. Humans didn't evolve defenses because defenses are reactive. They evolved to be proactively resistant to harm. Their entire biology assumes that the environment is hostile and compensates accordingly. So when we test them with conditions that we consider extreme, they consider them normal. Zixlar finished, or even mild. Marcus Webb wasn't being brave when he stayed in the radiation. He genuinely didn't consider it dangerous because by human standards it wasn't. Torval was quiet for a long moment. The council assigned protection teams to the humans. I know. Should we tell them that the protection teams are probably unnecessary? Zixlar considered this. Not yet. I want more data. Besides, the protection teams serve another purpose now. They're documenting just how remarkable humans really are. Rixtor's reports alone have been invaluable. You're building a case, Torval realized. I'm building the truth, Zixlar corrected gently. The galaxy needs to understand what humanity represents. Not as a curiosity, but as a fundamental challenge to our assumptions about biology and survival. Humans didn't need to evolve defenses because they evolved something better. They evolved to be unbreakable. The medical bay on Research Station Kepler-7 was quiet, except for the soft beeping of scanners. Dr. Zixlar stood before the holographic display, his crystalline body reflecting rainbow patterns across the white walls. His 6 limbs moved with precise coordination as he studied the data in front of him. For the first time in his 30 cycles of service to the Galactic Council, he felt something close to horror. The humans had arrived 3 days ago, 5 of them, led by Commander Sarah Chen, sent as Earth's first diplomatic crew to the Council. Standard procedure required all new species to undergo medical evaluation before full integration. Every species in the galaxy had passed this routine examination. Until now, Dr. Zixlar, is something wrong? Ambassador Torval entered the medical bay, his forearms folded across his broad chest. The Varani ambassador had seen many species join the council over his long career, but he had never seen the usually calm doctor look so disturbed. Wrong? Everything is wrong. Zixlar gestured at the displays. Look at this. The humans have no protective scales like the Varani, no armored shells like the Krex, no toxic secretions, no psionic shields, no regenerative tissue layers. They don't even have basic defensive adaptations that we consider essential for survival. Torval moved closer to examine the scans. Perhaps they evolved on a gentle world. Some species develop in protected environments. That's what I thought at first, Zixlar brought up another display. But then I reviewed the data on their homeworld. Earth is classified as a Class 8 death world. Extreme temperature variations, high radiation exposure, dangerous predators, aggressive microbial life. The planet should have killed any species without proper defenses. The ambassador's secondary eyes widened. A death world species without defenses? How did they survive? I don't know. But we must run the standard survival tests. Council regulations require it. Zixlar made a note on his datapad. I'm concerned they won't survive them. 2 hours later, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the testing chamber with her crew. She was a woman of average height by human standards, with dark hair pulled back in a practical style. Her brown eyes showed curiosity rather than fear, as Dr. Zixlar explained the procedures through the communication system. Commander Chen, these tests are required for all species seeking council membership. We will expose you to various environmental conditions. If at any point you feel discomfort, simply say so and we will stop immediately. Sarah smiled. We understand, Doctor. We're ready. The first test began. The chamber's atmosphere was altered to include trace amounts of chlorine gas, a common atmospheric component on several council worlds. Zixlar watched the monitors carefully, ready to flood the chamber with clean air at the first sign of distress. The humans coughed a little. Sarah waved her hand in front of her face. Smells like a swimming pool, she commented. But they remained standing, breathing normally after the initial reaction. Zixlar checked his instruments 3 times. The readings were correct. Impossible, he whispered. Chlorine should cause severe respiratory damage to unprotected tissue. Perhaps their internal systems are more robust than they appear, Torval suggested. Though he sounded uncertain, the tests continued. Temperature variations that would send most species into shock barely made the humans sweat or shiver. Pressure changes that required protective equipment for other species prompted only minor ear popping. Radiation levels that necessitated shielding for everyone else caused Sarah to mention something about getting a tan. By the end of the day, Dr. Zixlar sat in his office, staring at the test results. Ambassador Torval had joined him, equally puzzled. They passed everything, Torval said quietly. Every single test. Not just passed, Zixlar corrected. They barely seemed to notice. The radiation exposure that we logged should have required medical treatment. Commander Chen asked if we had stronger lights. What does this mean? The doctor was silent for a long moment. I believe we need to completely rethink our understanding of human biology. They don't have natural defenses because they don't need them. Their baseline physiology is already operating at a level that most species can only achieve with specialized defensive adaptations. Torval processed this information. You're saying that what we consider undefended is actually their normal state? That humans are naturally as tough as our warriors in full armor? Possibly tougher. Zixlar pulled up a comparison chart. Look at this. Human bone density is 3 times higher than expected for their body mass. Their muscle fibers have redundancy built into the structure. Their skin can repair itself from damage that would permanently scar most species. Even their blood carries oxygen with such efficiency that they can function in atmospheres that would suffocate us. But how? How did evolution produce something like this? Dr. Zixlar brought up images of Earth. Look at their planet. It's not just a death world, it's a proving ground. Extreme environments across the entire surface. Ice caps that would freeze solid most organic life. Deserts with temperatures that exceed tolerances for heat-resistant species. Oceans with pressures that crush standard hulls. And humans adapted to all of it. They didn't evolve defenses, he continued. They evolved to be inherently resistant to everything their world could throw at them. The result is a species that treats lethal conditions as minor inconveniences. A soft chime interrupted their discussion. The communication panel activated, showing Commander Chen's face. Dr. Zixlar, Ambassador Torval, I hope we didn't cause any problems with the tests today. My crew is wondering if there are more evaluations scheduled. We're eager to get started with the diplomatic work. Zixlar and Torval exchanged glances. The human seemed completely unaware of how remarkable her species' performance had been. No problems at all, Commander, Torval replied. In fact, you and your crew have passed all required tests with exceptional results. Sarah smiled. That's great to hear. The tests seemed pretty straightforward. Is there anything else you need from us? Just one question, if I may. Zixlar leaned forward. The radiation exposure in the final test. You mentioned getting a tan. What did you mean? Oh, that, Sarah laughed. On Earth, our sun produces radiation that darkens our skin as a protective response. We call it tanning. Some people actually seek out sun exposure for this effect. Your radiation felt similar, just a bit stronger. Nothing we can't handle. After the communication ended, Zixlar looked at Torval with something approaching disbelief. They seek out radiation exposure voluntarily, for aesthetic purposes. I believe, Torval said slowly, that we have greatly underestimated humanity. The question is, does the rest of the Council need to know just how extraordinary these beings are? Dr. Zixlar began compiling his report. They need to know everything. This isn't just about one species joining the Council. This changes our understanding of what's possible in evolutionary biology. Humans didn't develop natural defenses because they evolved past the need for them. They are, in essence, already defended by simply being human. As the doctor worked late into the station's night cycle, he created a new file in the Council's xenobiology database. He titled it, The Human Paradox, a Species Without Defenses That Needs None. It would be the first of many reports that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever.